DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here. Glad you joined us today. We're going to have a great show. Dr. Dion van der Merwe is going to be with us talking about blue-green algae and some of the things that we can understand more about this problem and some of the things you can do to prevent it. Thanks for joining us and stay tuned for the show.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America, a place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
This segment brought to you by the new Hired Hand Portable Cow Sprayer. For more information, visit cowsprayer.com. Dion, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Folks, this is Dr. Dion van der Merwe, and he is an associate professor here in the diagnostic laboratory at Kansas State University, and he's the head of our toxicology section. And you've done a lot of work with this blue-green algae, and it's a pretty serious problem that we have here in the U.S. and specifically around our area.
It is. It's definitely actually it's worldwide. So it's a problem all over the world where we have open water, open fresh water, and especially when we have conditions where the temperatures can get fairly high in the summer.
Yep.
And then coupled with that, if you have the nutrients available in the water that can allow these organisms to multiply rapidly, that's when we see the real problems. So
it's one of those things that every summer, you sit there, you're going to your favorite lake, and all of a sudden it says, we're closed.
Exactly.
And it can happen in the ponds, and it can happen, many different areas. But
and it's a really challenging problem. The reason is that we are, as human beings multiply, we are obliged to provide food. So we really don't have a choice but to use a lot of nutrients for crop production. And arguably that is the biggest source of the nutrients that eventually makes its way into lakes and cause the triggering of these blooms. So it's a catch-22 situation. We are forced to use nutrients to produce food, but in that process, we unfortunately have these potential negative consequences, including harmful algal blooms. So harmful algal blooms are really is just normal organisms that are part of the ecology of any lake. In fact, if you go and look at any lake, even if there is no bloom, and you really fine-comb the organisms, so if you look for them, you will probably find cyanobacteria there, but they're just normal background constituents. In many ecosystems, they are very important primary producers. So they produce the initial food for other organisms, to build onto that. So you have eventually fish. So the whole production of a normal ecosystem is also dependent on these organisms being there.
Right.
So just being there is not a problem. It's really when we have too much nutrients, coupled with things like a lot of light available. So if you have, conditions in the summer, let's say heat wave conditions. So you have many days of cloudless weather, very hot. That tends to promote the growth of these organisms.
So these bacteria, these cyanobacteria, are present in the lakes. They're part of the normal ecosystem. But when we have increase in the supply of nutrients coming into the lakes or ponds through fertilizer and things to that nature, increased sunlight, increased heat.
Right.
That's when we see these blooms.
And then on top of that, one of the reasons actually why we are seeing an increase is that we are changing the landscape. So if you compare, let's say, the Midwest landscape from many years ago, there were many fewer open water bodies. We create small water bodies, ponds for livestock, lakes for recreation and water management and so on. And these create opportunities for the organisms to cause a problem when the conditions are right.
Very good. Well, folks, we're going to take a break. When we come back, more with Dr. Funder Merva and talking about blue-green algae. Thanks for joining us.
This Meet the Future Veterinarian is brought to you by Zuprevo. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment.
Megan Thompson grew up on a farm in Minnesota. Her dad, a farmer, and her uncle, a dairy veterinarian, influenced her decision to become a veterinarian. She always wanted to provide top-notch care for livestock while keeping the food supply safe. Megan will be starting her career with the Harmony Cresco Veterinary Clinics in Minnesota, focusing on dairy and beef cattle production medicine.
Some call it a come-from-behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
No matter where, no matter why, the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help?
How can we help?
Healthy cows start with the new hired hand automatic livestock sprayer. Rancher invented to provide an efficient alternative to pour-on and injectable parasite management systems. The portable design allows cattle to treat themselves head to hoof. Strategic device placement with pass-through activation technology takes the stress out of parasite treatment for cattle and the rancher. Get the new hired hand for yourself or become a distributor. Visit cowsprayer.com. The new hired hand makes healthy cows easy.
This segment is brought to you by Norbrook Laboratories, manufacturers of Enroflox 100, the newest addition to your arsenal for treating bovine and swine respiratory disease.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Dion Funder Merva, and we're talking about blue-green algae. And Dion, when we left, you know, we'd kind of set it up. We got more bodies of water. Mm-hmm. We have to produce more food for more human beings. So we're putting more fertilizer, more nutrients on. It's winding up in our water supply, causing this bloom. And so now these bacteria are always there. And we've just helped create the situation. But let's talk a little bit about some of the different problems, because when they shut down the lake or they shut down the thing, it's something that people outside of agriculture, you know, well, everybody that uses the lake, inside or outside agriculture, wants to know a little bit more about why we're not going in there, or why our dog got sick, or things to that nature. So let's talk a little bit about these different products.
Okay, and something I should maybe point out is that if you look at the economic impact of the problem, a lot of it is associated with things other than direct poisoning, but it's the need to avoid poisoning that has a significant economic impact.
Sure.
So when you have conditions that might lead to poisoning, so you have risky conditions, then we have to take action. We have to close lakes. Farmers need to provide alternative water sources for livestock, etc., etc. So it really is a wide economic footprint if you think of all the implications of, you know, conditions that lead to risk. But if we focus for a moment then on the poisoning itself, one of the most common types of toxins that are produced by cyanobacteria, and I have to also say that there are a variety of toxins, so not all cyanobacterial blooms are going to produce the same kind of poisoning. But one of the most common, especially in our region, is caused by a toxin called microcystin, which is produced by a number of cyanobacterial organisms, but the most commonly source, the most common source is Microcystis, is a species of cyanobacteria. And when I first got interested in this problem, it was because of a very severe bloom of Microcystis that happened in Milford Lake, here close to Manhattan. And it caused poisoning and death in dogs that visited the lake. There were also some cases of human poisoning, luckily not very serious, not lethal. But that really sparked the interest because that showed how rapidly lethal these toxins could be. These dogs, when they visited the lake and they ingested the material, they would typically die within a couple of days of the ingestion. A very, very serious, rapidly developing disease due to liver failure. So it's a toxin that at first, so the first exposure that you get tends to cause a rapid inflammatory response. So it causes an irritating effect on things like mucous membranes. So if you get some of that contaminated water in your eye or so, you'll probably experience an irritating effect, so tearing and inflammation and pain. But then you will also, if you ingest it, it will cause a vomiting, then diarrhea, and then you get liver failure after that if the dose is high enough.
Well, let's take a break, and then when we come back, we'll wrap up on the liver and go to some of the neurotoxins.
Sure.
You're watching Doc Talk, and we're sure glad you joined us.
The BQA tip of the day, sponsored by Beringer Ingelheim Vetmedica Inc.
Hello folks, Dr. Nels Lindberg here with Animal Medical Center and Production Animal Consultation out of Great Bend, Kansas. Today's BQA tip of the day, we're going to talk about storage of our vaccine and product that we use for processing any sort of bovine, pig, whatever it might be. Storage of product can oftentimes be overlooked, but we want to make sure we store our product in a clean, dry, cool place that follows the label of what sort of temperature we need to cool it out. This particular facility, they have a nice walk-in cooler. Not everybody has these, but if it's a walk-in cooler or a small fridge-sized cooler, we want to make sure that we maintain proper temperature. Something neat that has come on the horizon is that we now have the ability to monitor the temperature of any sort of refrigerator via our cell phone. If the temperature steps out of our accepted refrigeration range, it notifies us on our cell phone that that refrigerator is out of that acceptable range, lets us know so we can go figure out what the problem is, get it fixed, remove the vaccine. Again, we want to store our product in a clean, dry, cool place that's within those accepted temperature ranges so that our product that we use on our animals is very effective and the most effective that we can make it. Thank you much.
It must be an inherited trait because I have never wanted to do anything other than be in the cattle business. And it's interesting as I have grandchildren now, little bitty ones. All they want to do is go to the barn, swing a rope, and be a cowboy. It's something. It's a lifestyle that we have, the way we make a living, obviously. But it's really more than that. It gives us the opportunity as a family to be able to work together and enjoy each other's company and make a living at the same time. We've been using Triangle for years, and the reason we do it's been safe and effective, and we're going to continue to do that. We'll put the cows in the chute twice a year, spring and fall. 100% of our cattle get vaccinated with Triangle.
Hello friends, I'm Ernie Rodina.
And I'm Dawn Dawson with the Better Horses Radio Show.
For over 9 years, we've been bringing the Better Horses Radio Show to markets all across the Midwest. We talk about God, lots about horses.
We talk about cows, we talk about horse health, we talk to top trainers, and we even talk about Roy Rogers.
We're having a blast with Better Horses Radio Show and would love to take it to a market near you.
So visit our website at betterhorsesradio.com and let us or your local radio station know you'd like to hear it in your area.
The Better Horses Radio Show is unbelievable.
Broadband has become as important to us as highways. That is why DocTalk is teaming up with NTCA, the Rural Broadband Association, and rural broadband companies like Blue Valley Telecommunications in fighting for quality broadband access through the program Smart Rural Communities.
I don't think we have any idea what's coming in the future. I couldn't have imagined 5 years ago what we're doing today. So in 2 years, I would guess there's things we can't imagine that we're going to be doing.
To learn more, visit ntca.org/smart or bluevalley.net. True Test Group, weighing systems, electronic identification EID, electric fencing, and dairy automation systems help farmers and ranchers around the world manage the performance of their livestock for ultimate profitability.
Folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Dion Funder-Merva, and he is the head of the toxicology section here at Kansas State University's College of Veterinary Medicine. Done a lot of research on blue-green algae. It's something that we go to a lot of seminars on and a lot of talk about blue-green algae with the respects to the livestock industry, our horses, our dogs, many different animals. But you know, we talked about liver toxics, but what about neurotoxins?
Yeah, that's another group of toxins. So the liver toxins are very important, but probably the second most important, if you look at the impact and the number of cases that we are seeing, are some of the neurotoxic substances that are produced by cyanobacteria. Specifically anatoxin. There are two types of anatoxin, anatoxin A and anatoxin AS. These are quite similar in effect, but they are different toxins. The anatoxin A is very similar in its effect to nicotine. So if a person were to ingest nicotine, the effects that you see associated with that, which are neurologic, it affects the musculoskeletal system in the sense that the nerves that go to those muscles become affected. And at the junction between the nerve and the muscle, there are receptors that will be affected as well. So the control of the muscle becomes abnormal. So what you see there is that initially you will see muscle contractions, abnormal, uncoordinated muscle contractions. And if the condition persists, then the muscle will become paralyzed. So very often we see these cases, animals will just be found dead, or they might be found in that initial stage where they have lots of muscle contractions, so the animal might be convulsing, things like that. But it acts very fast. In fact, anatoxin A's original name was very fast death factor. And they came up with that name because when they injected mice with an extract of this algal scum, the mice would be dead in a few minutes. So they just call it very fast death factor. Later on, when they described the structure and so on, and they figured out more exactly what it was, they called it anatoxin A specifically. So
with both the neurotoxin and the liver toxin, this is pretty rapid as far as, and what species does it?
That's a good question. It's actually very indiscriminate in terms of species. So it will affect livestock, it will affect pets, people, wildlife, birds, even fish. So if fish are swimming in a lake where there are high concentrations of the toxins and they are not able to avoid those high concentrations, fish might actually die. So also if you look at biomarkers of poisoning, and you look at fish that are caught in a lake that is affected, you will typically see biomarkers that indicate that there is a physiological effect in those fish. So it's very indiscriminate. If you look at the mechanism of action, it is those substances in the cells that are affected are present in all cells, all living cells. So the reason that we get serious effects in some species rather than others is more related to their exposure, how they ingest. Do they get enough to cause poisoning?
Perfect. We're going to take a break, folks. When we come back, we'll wrap up on blue-green algae. You're watching Doc Talk. We're glad you joined us.
This hog is head over hoof for meal made from U.S. soybeans. Now, one hog isn't that impressive, but suppose we add another, and another, and another. Before long, you've got billions of hungry customers around the world all clamoring for the same thing. Our soybeans. Learn more about the billion-dollar appetite of animal agriculture at BeyondTheElevator.com.
No matter where, no matter why, the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help?
How can we help?
Working your cattle just got easier. Introducing the new Vet Gun delivery system, a new way to apply topical insecticides to your cattle. The Vet Gun lets you remotely treat cattle with effective parasite control, so you can do it just walking among the herd. It's that simple. The proven topical insecticide AML Vet Cap is used with the Vet Gun. It works fast to control horn flies and lice while minimizing stress on your cattle. Fast, easy, effective. Vet Gun. Check with your animal health supplier for availability.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Say this is a calf that's been run through the chute a few too many times. Going through the chute stresses cattle, causing them not to eat like they should. Luckily, Pyramid 5 plus Presponse SQ provides proven protection against key respiratory diseases in a single shot, with just one trip through the chute. Talk to your veterinarian about Pyramid 5 plus Presponse SQ, and soon your calves will relax and eat like a whole different animal.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Dion Funder-Merva, and we're talking about blue-green algae, and you know, one of the things that kind of struck me is, okay, so I walk out into my pasture. What am I looking for as a producer, beef producer, to make sure that I don't have blue-green algae, or if I do, how do I diagnose it in the pond?
So I'm assuming that you're talking about the situation where livestock have access to a pond, and they use that as a water source.
Absolutely.
Which is very common. It's in many cases the only available water source. So if you have to have alternatives, it's very expensive and inconvenient to have to provide that. But if you have a pond, the first thing that you typically will expect to see is a change in the color of the water. So most cases, the color will change to green. And it can be that the organisms are growing in the water column, so below the surface, and then just the general color of the water will turn into a different color.
Okay.
Usually green, but sometimes it can be brownish or reddish as well. It can have more or less of a bluish tinge to it. So it's variable. Just a change in color is a danger sign. And then it can be that the algal bloom will form a scum that floats on the surface, which is quite common, but it's not always the case. But very often it is. So some of the common organisms, like the microcystis that we get in this area, tend to float to the surface. And because they float to the surface, and if there is a breeze that blows across the surface, they tend to blow along the water surface and accumulate on the downwind side of a pond. So if you have a pond and you see what can be called an algal scum, or an accumulation of blue or blue-green or brownish material on the downwind side, that is definitely a danger sign. And if you see that, the best thing to do is to not allow animals access until you verified what that's caused.
So grab a sample, send it in to diagnostic labs.
Exactly.
They can tell if you have it. What can I do in my pond if I do have it?
If you have it, what you can do depends very much on the type of pond and the circumstances. So if it's a small pond, then you have more options to do things.
And what are those?
So you can, there are chemicals that you can add to the water. Things like copper will effectively kill the organisms. So if you have a serious bloom and you need to break that bloom, that is an option if the conditions are right. So if you can safely apply chemicals like that, then that might be an option. You have to keep in mind, though, that it's not a permanent solution. It's only going to kill those organisms that are there at the time, but they can bloom again if the conditions don't change. You can also do things that will interrupt the requirements of the organism. So things like interrupting sunlight. There are things that you can add to the water that will essentially shade the water to prevent sunlight from penetrating. You can also plant tall trees around the pond to limit sunlight. If you have a lot of water plants in and around the water, that competes for nutrients with these organisms. So that can reduce the incidence as well. So there are lots of different things that can be used to try and prevent the problem from reoccurring.
Perfect. Thanks for joining me today.
You're welcome.
And thanks for joining us today on DocTalk. Remember, always work with your local veterinarian. If you want to know more about what Dr. Dion and I do here at K-State, you can find us on the web at www.vet.ksu.edu. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson. Thanks for watching DocTalk, and I'll see you down the road. Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com. DocTalk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.